Hello YouTube, welcome to Silent Guitar Player channel. In this short video I'm going to talk about Klark Teknik Pro DI-10P, a passive DI box which can sum stereo signal to mono, my modification that I made to it. I will show you the disassembly of the unit and what's inside. And while I'm taking it out of the box, here's a little story. There were a couple of situations that I ran into where I needed to sum the stereo output of my guitar pedal board to mono. Those occasions were rare, and of course normally this is not something you'd want to do, but I had to use a single channel in the front of house to run my rig. So I was looking for an external ready-made solution to sum the signal of my stereo pedal board to mono. I checked a couple of offerings from Radial Engineering, and while I'm sure they are excellent products, they were a little bit too expensive for something that I was probably going to use once or twice a year maximum. So I looked elsewhere and I found this offering by Klark Teknik, very budget friendly. It was like 50 bucks or something. And on paper, it ticked all the boxes for me. It provided the stereo input via either a couple of RCA connectors or a stereo mini jack 1/8 of an inch or 3.5 mil connector. It also offered a level adjustment for the left and right input channels, which is of course a trim rather than a boost or anything else, since this is a totally passive device. And then it offered a balanced mono summed XLR output with a ground lift switch. Everything that I needed, except for one connectivity option. I really wanted to have 1/4-inch jack inputs. So I opened up the unit. I saw that there was a ton of free space inside, and I basically decided to add a couple of 1/4-inch mono inputs, wire them in parallel with the existing inputs of the unit, and have a DI box that doesn't only fulfill all of my functionality needs, but also offers all of the connectivity options I wanted. So here is the final result. Those are the two 1/4-inch jack inputs that I added. To me, it looks pretty neat and doesn't really spoil the appearance of the unit. I pre-disassembled it for the sake of shortness of the video. So basically, this enclosure consists of a single central part and then two panels, the front panel and the rear panel. The panels are attached to the enclosure with 4 Torx bolts on each side. There is a PCB inside, which is attached here with this little screw to the PCB mounted double RCA connector unit, whatever you want to call it. And on the other side, it's mounted by 2 little screws. The rear wall is mounted by 2 little screws onto the XLR output connector, which is also mounted on the PCB. So basically, in order to take this apart, you just basically need to decide which way do you want to pull your PCB out, release the PCB from the opposite end, and then remove the screws here, which I did. Those screws also hold the plastic protective feet, which are quite nice and add a little bit of protection to the enclosure of the unit, since you're definitely going to be throwing it on the floor and it's going to be dangling around. So now I can just gently pull the PCB out of the unit, and here it is. So this is the Midas transformer that provides the DI functionality of the unit. The PCB is very basic. There is nothing or not much going on here. And those are the two extra 1/4 inch jacks, panel mounted jacks or sockets that I added to the unit. It's very easy. I drilled 2 holes. I mounted the jacks on the front panel. I ran the wires through those little holes that existed in the PCB, and I soldered them to the soldering points where the RCA connector is soldered to the PCB. Very easy. This is just a masking tape that I put here to keep wires from dangling around. So there you have it. Now you can reassemble it. There are 2 grooves here which you align the PCB with, slide it inside. You make sure that the ground lift switch finds its way through this little hole, and that's it. Your unit is ready to be reassembled. You install the protective feet, and then you screw all the screws and bolts back in place, which I'm not going to do in the video because it's not very exciting. So that's it. This is my modified Klark Teknik Pro DI 10P passive stereo to mono summing direct box, now with 1/4 inch jack connectivity that I needed. Thank you. Take care.